So this time, hello everyone. This time I want to talk about how Korea has developed over time. So there are two theories that I wanted to cover. The first theory is like Peter Evans or Levi Fowles article. So they are very traditional kind of explanations how Korea has developed over time. And then next week we want to talk about David Kang's article. It's kind of different from the things that we will learn today. So let's. I mean, you don't have to get a lot of stress because it's very easy to follow. And then maybe some international students, maybe they are not familiar with what I'm trying to say, but it's easy to understand. The first of all, so how did this state develop? This state means not only Korea, but also Taiwan, Hong Kong. But Hong Kong is very small, so Singapore is also a city. And China. China also we can categorize as a development state. And then the second thing you have to try to understand is the power configuration among these three groups: state, business, labor. How this power configuration has changed over time. So which one has more power than the others? And then 1960s Korea started to have developed, and then it was authoritarianism as you know, like Park Chung-hee is authoritarian kind of regime and development. And then these states include Japan too. So Japan, Korea, Taiwan, Hong Kong, later China. But when these development states has been developed in 1980s, 1970s, at the time China wasn't developed. So China wasn't part of the country. So some people still like hesitate whether China should be in there or not. But I wanted to definitely put as a China one of the country. But anyway, but this article, Levi Fall, also talk about Israel as well. So you can like you can ask how Israel and Korea differ, but that's not the major issue for me here. And discussion we will talk about definitely does authoritarian regime is better for economic development, because that argument was very crucial because when when mm, South Korea actually developed like that, Japan was democracy, but only one political party has a power quite a long time, right? So it's democracy, but it has very non-democratic kind of characteristics inside. And then the next question that I always ask to everyone, because you guys are from different country, can other states like African countries, so they try to, right? Can other states adopt development state model? Can can other states adopt same strategy that Korea did, and then they could achieve economic development or not? So that's very important questions that we should ask, definitely. And then what can we learn from her? So her as Korea. So what can we learn? What can we extract from these development? Oh, here's the pictures that I wanted to show. The first picture is Park Jung-hee. Park Jung-hee's regime. Park Jung-hee, I mean, he wears the the Japanese military military. He wears Japanese military. He used to work for the Japan in Japanese security quite a long time. He even changed his name. And but anyway, he became the leader quite a long time in Korea. And then second one, as you know, he's Xi Jinping, leader of Xi Jinping. And then third one is Jang Kae-seok. So, the leader of Taiwan. So we will. I mean, they are kind of symbols of economic development leaders who made Korea, China, Taiwan like this way. So maybe I'm not sure. I think we have a Chinese students. Yeah, one Chinese students. I have in our class. I always had a Chinese student. I don't know why, but Chinese students was very interesting in my class. And then, but at the time, but actually they would never raise a question related to like Taiwan issue because when Taiwan was developed, I mean now China is more developed. I'm not sure we can say it, but we have to look at the details. But China has been developed, quite developed, right? So Chinese people don't really care about like how Taiwan has been developed. But at the time when Taiwan was developed, China was struggle at the time. So and there was no diplomatic relations between the two quite a long time. After post-war, I mean, after there was a civil war in China, and when Chiang Kai-shek lost, he ran away to the island, Taiwan Island, where Taiwan was established. And then quite since then, like there was no continuity continuous continuous relations between the two quite a long time. And then later on, when China opened its economy, and then they started to have a relationship with Taiwan. And then quite long time, Taiwan was Republic of Taiwan. Right now it's different, but at the time, quite long time, Taiwan was very independent. And then Taiwan has its own diplomatic relations with others, especially like Western society. So scholars actually, when they study it first, they studied only uh, Taiwan. So you have to understand, like when I talk about like Taiwan, I will treat as a one country because I'm focusing on 1960s, 70s, 80s, from 1990s to from 2000, China became China emphasized one China policy, right? So China is only one country, cannot divide it into two. I mean, I respect that. So, but it was quite a long time ago. So, what I'm studying is quite a long time ago. Anyway, let's start. Very funny, very unique story how Korea has developed over time. But anyway, let's start with history first because we have a lot of international students. As you know, Korea was colonized by Japan from 1910 to 1945. That's what we have learned in the previous video. And that was occupation period. So when you guys are interested in one of my classes, North and South Korean unification, if you take the class, I'm teaching what happened during the occupational period. It's very different, not South and North, but we had the kind of period. It was about like 5 years, and then the U.S. decided to leave us. So U.S. actually left alone. And then what happened was war, right? So Korea War. Right after the, the U.S. decided to leave, South Korea has a problems of Korean War because of power vacuum. That's what uh, many people actually explained. Anyway, as you can see, like these are pictures by during the Korean War. As you can see, like there are many people were killed not by only fighting against two countries, but also South Korean government killed a lot of um, North Korean supporters in South Korea. So there were a lot of killings were going on, and these were the soldiers from the foreign countries. So Korea was devastated, completely devastated. There was nothing left. So as you can see, this is comparison between among the major countries. So South Korea, Taiwan, Ghana, Brazil, Mexico, Argentina. So if you compare per capita GDP in 1960, Korea was only 883, so that was one of the worst countries in the world. And then 1989, 6,206, that's an amazing number. So per capita GDP growth annual growth was 6.82. And Taiwan was better than South Korea because Taiwan was the land that where the two countries fought each other, right? So it wasn't completely devastated like South Korea, but it was still really bad. The per capita GDP was 1,359, but 1989 it became 8,207, and annual growth rate was 6.17. It was quite high too. And Brazil, Ghana, we many actual scholars compare Ghana and South Korea side by side because the per capita GDP was very similar to each other. It was 873, but it get worse. It become 1982. 1982 it became 815, so not much different from 1960. And if you look at Brazil also developed over time. It wasn't bad, right? This is not bad at all. Brazil was 1745 in 1960, but it became 14 1435. So it's not bad. The annual growth rate is 3.58. Mexico growth rate is 2.36. That's kind of not good, but we can't say it's bad, right? And Argentina is 0.63 rate. It's not good. So many countries actually has been struggle. So that was saying that it's almost impossible for poor country to become rich. But uh, some scholars actually divide the country like periphery, semi-core, core. So it's almost impossible for country from periphery to core, but South Korea is very rare, one of the rare countries that achieved from periphery to core. So we will see. And this is the comparison between Ghana and South Korea. As I said, two countries usually like scholars they compare one by one, side by side, these two countries like this. As you can see from 1970, 1980s, 1990s, it gets worse. 2000, the gaps, In 2010, so Korea has developed over time constantly, but Ghana couldn't do it, and we have to see what was going on in country among these countries. That's what we will learn. Anyway, this is growth rate, so I wanted to talk about growth rate too because here it's 7.7% is not bad. I mean, it's really rare, right? 7%, 4%, 9%, 9%, 12, 7, 12, 9, 13, 15, 10, 10. So at the time, if you go to bank, then the interest rate was about 10%. So if you don't have to worry about like how to become rich because if you just save money, then they give you like 10%. That's crazy, right? But at the time, so like your parents, most of your parents are not interested in stock market or like some of your parents are not interested in stock market or your parents may not interested in uh real estate. They only wanted to save money. It's not their fault. It's what it was like that. So, but as you can see here, from 1970, 1980, it's minus for the first time in the history. So we have to, I mean, that was, but we just next year we have a growth rate 7%. It's what happened is that there was oil crisis, so we had a problem at the time, but it was very short period of time. And then, as you can see here, so from 1960 to 1997, Korea's economy was pretty good. So our like over average growth rate was about like 10%, right? But 1997, as you can see, we have a huge economic downturn for the first time in the history. And because of that, many things has been changed over time. Many things. So especially like labor market has been changed. So we have a lot of irregular workers these days. It's because of this event. And then I think the most dramatic problems that we have right now is that the firms they do not want to invest much. They want you to have a cash. That's actually wrong. The Originally the firms should not have a cash. They shouldn't have a capital. They have to keep investing money. That's how they should make money. So they have to spend R&D, they have to spend on other things for the development. But as you can see here, uh, because of this economic crisis at the time, we didn't have uh, enough cash, enough dollars at the time. The shortage of dollars, it actually gives a lot of shocks to many firms. And since then, South Korean, South Korean firms, they do not want to take the risk. That's actually the major issues, I think. But anyway, that was it. And then let's start then this state-led development. So when we talk about like previous class and now we keep talking about like developmental state, the developmental state, vice versa, we can say development state equals actually state-led development. So so what's the role of state? The major role of state is to provide public goods. So we actually have studied what is public goods, right? So public goods means even though you don't contribute, right? You can get a benefit out of it. So like for instance, like clean air. No one actually you don't really contribute for clean air, but it's impossible for a person to be enjoy the clean air. It's impossible. That's actually the public good. So the major public good the government provide is usually like education, military, or infrastructure kind of things are the major roles of government. So many Western society used to believe that government shouldn't be in the market. The government just they have to watch out role. That's all they should do. But South Korean government, they do more than they should. So the government is not only provide public goods, but also they become the major engine for economic development. That's actually the major difference between Western society and and South Korea. And we had a very some some history that Park Chung-hee became the president. Before that, we had a 이승만 government. I승만 government. He was in power quite a long time. Well, at first he was elect. There was an election, and he was elected. But after first time, he wanted to keep doing his presidency. So he changed the law, and that was totally illegal. And then there was election fraud and kind of things. But there was a revolution. So he stepped out. So that was first authoritarianism. And then, but Isungman didn't have much impact on the economy. Maybe he had some impact on politically, but he didn't have much impact on the economy. And later on, there was a new government. But Park Chung-hee, he succeeded in coup, military coup. So it was May 16th, 1961. He did a military coup. He was succeed. His name is Park Chung-hee. As you can see, it's this picture. So he used to be a teacher. Wow, that's unbelievable, right? So he got married very early, and then he was a teacher, but he always respected Napoleon. So it was his dream to become a Napoleon. So he quit, and then he entered the university, the military academy in Japan, and then he graduated third or second. I can't remember exactly, but he graduated with very good record. And then he used to fight in Manchuria area in China. But when Japan went to when war was over, so he pretended he worked for independent independent activist. So he disguised as independence activist. So I think at the time many like Japanese military personnel, they when they come back to Korea they use that kind of tricks. Anyway, so he came back to Korea and he used to he started serve military, but before that he actually joined a lot of different kinds of political parties. The one of political parties that he joined was South Korea Workers Political Party. That's Namnodang in Korean. So the South Korean political party was actually not a democracy, so not like a capitalist kind of political party. So its name itself actually designated or explained itself. It was the socialist political parties. At the time, we have a like socialist political party, and Park Jong-il was one of them. So there was a lot of explanation why he was there. It's because some people think that it's because he wanted to be success. He wanted to be always in. He was obsessed with success. So he thinks at the time the South Korea Workers' Party has a lot of people. So he thinks that he wanted to have connections. That's one explanation. Second explanation, there's no second explanation whatsoever. So why he was there? I mean, it's hard to explain. So he doesn't really understand what is capitalist, communist. But I can definitely say since he graduated like college, in Japan, that means he was well educated. So he knew what it means. I mean, he must know better than any other person in South Korea. So he probably know what it means, but who knows? But anyway, that was explanation. And then I mean, he was dictator for sure, but I mean, he has a good intentions in terms of economic development. He was very poor, so he has kind of ambitions that he had experience of starvation when he was a kid. So his dream was to make South Korea rich. That was actually real. I think that it seems real. We never know the people's intention, right? So we never know it's true or not. But it sounds like he has that ambitions. He wanted to have a very strong desire for a country to be rich, but in from another perspective, he should have that ambition because he was unstable. I mean, his popularity wasn't very strong, so he was very popular among the rural area, but he wasn't that popular in city area, in urban area. So he was always wanting to have maintain his power, and he thinks that one of the justifications for his rule is to achieve economic development. And when he declared coup, military coup, he's saying that, I mean, we can't just let our country to the civilian leaders' hand because they don't know how to make economic development. But I can do it, and the military can do it. So if military achieve that goals, then we will just take down. That's what he says. So his obligation for economic development was very urgent and that utmost task for the Park Jong-il. And then he was wondering how he should do. So first thing he did was to establish economic planning board. In Korean, 경제기획관. So in July, he established EPB first. EPB is actually the core engine for economic development in South Korea. And then he announced for the first time a 5-year economic development plan. But here's the thing that you should actually understand. Isn't it weird that I mean what I'm saying weird is that he he used I mean he politically he oppressed a lot of opposition, and there was no strong opposition at the time because he killed so many people, and then he was dictator. And justifications of his rule is that he wanted to get rid of uh, communist sympathizer or communist friendly person. So, I mean, he tortured and killed and he oppressed people by using their rhetoric. So he's saying, "Oh, I should put him in jail because he's a communist sympathizer. He helped North Korea because at the time, South Koreans hated North Korea because they invade and then they kill a lot of people. So many people actually that has hatredism toward North Korea. So he wanted to use it. So he wanted to use this anti-socialism idea, and he wanted to put that as his major justification of his ruling. But isn't it weird that he used 5-year economic development plans? Because that's very socialist idea. So government actually make this economic plan, and they come up with the economic plan. That's what North Korea did. That's what Soviet Union did, and a lot of at the time the communist society they come up with this 5-year economic development plan. I mean, it was possible. It was very natural for socialist states come up with 5-year economic plan because the socialist idea is that the state should control over like the economy, not only economy, society as a whole. So it's a very natural thing, but for the Park Jong-il, it's very unnatural that he used that strategy, right? But he did for the first time 5-year economic development plan. But it's not his first. But I mean, we had 5-year economic plan by Lee Seung-man government. But it says first. That means the Lee Seung-man has 5-year economic plan because the U.S. aid. So he wanted to get U.S. aid. So I said U.S. helped a lot. And when U.S. left South Korea, because U.S. didn't want to care about South Korea much because their major strategic point was Japan. So they wanted to protect Japan, but not South Korea per se. But South Korea, I mean, they divide Korea into two like this, North and South. And then it wasn't the South Koreans' will, it was US and USSR's will. And then because of that, US didn't couldn't give up the South Korea, but that was South Korea wasn't strategy point. They care only about Japan. So that's why the US could left right after the war. But right after the war, I mean, after the US left, they promised for foreign aid. So the Lee Suk-man, he the first president of South Korea, he wanted to get the money from the U.S. So he wanted to show something to the U.S. See, that's our economic plan, and then based on economic plan we will develop. So please help. So because of that, we needed economic plan, but we didn't do anything. I mean, the Lee Sung-man didn't do much for economic development. So, but that's why I say first 5-year economic development plan begins. So it didn't begin first, but it began really begins during the Park Chung-his regime.